This is a podcast about the power of lived experiences, about how stories can shape more human-centered systems, spaces, and services.
Each episode, we sit down with people who are challenging the status quo, leading with empathy, and helping others through their work and their stories.
We're Farah and Megan, and this is Collected by Unimco.
Today on Collected, we're here with Kate Taylor-Martin, who is the founder and CEO of Nutbar, which is one of our favorite cafes in the city. They are a superfood cafe, which you'll learn more about today. Kate really has a passion for nourishment and making people feel amazing, which is what we are all about and aligned with for Collected. So without further ado, welcome, Kate. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to hear about your story and how you're changing the way that people are showing up for themselves through food.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So we thought we would just start it off with the first, what got you into what you're doing now and what sparked your curiosity with food and nourishment and just making people feel good.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start, especially for this podcast, because I started working in a hospital.
Okay.
And so this was after school. I had thought I wanted to go into broadcast news. So I was working at City News for a little bit, and then sort of a circuitous route took me to St. Mike's Hospital. And I think, as you well know, once you're in a healthcare setting and experience firsthand just how strained our system is, and I don't want to say backwards because I think everybody's doing the best we can, but that often it's not set up to be able to heal and nourish people maybe in the most optimal way. And I just felt I could see firsthand how burdened the system is. And I really felt this desire to take accountability for my own health in a way that I hadn't so far. I just wanted to learn about nature's superfoods and how to heal myself, essentially, take the best care of myself that I could. And so I enrolled in the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. And it was there that I always say, I think for many of us, there's a moment in our life where we're in a setting or school or talking to somebody and you can feel yourself lit up by the environment or the information, and you feel something visceral, like this aligns with me or a higher purpose, or I want to know more. And that's how it felt for me. Like I got into that class on the first day and I felt this just like energy through my body of like, this is where I am meant to be. Like, this is my calling. And I honestly feel like from that moment, I had this feeling of, I don't want this to just be a side project. I want this to be kind of my life's purpose. And so slowly over the course of 2 years while at school, I started to think about what I could do with this information that I was learning. I would go to school during the day and learn about like how healing and beautiful and nourishing chia seeds were. And I'd come home at night and make all these different snacks using chia seeds. And I started to give them to a lot of friends and family, and people would say, this is really delicious and I feel amazing after eating it, but like, where am I getting this on the go?
Right.
And this was in 2016, where really there wasn't anywhere to get healthy food on the go at all. I always say like, it was really the banana at Cash at Starbucks was like the only thing you could get that wasn't refined, processed.
Yeah. Or like a bag of almonds.
But
and even that like
maybe
so much salt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
They were coated in sugar and
exactly. And so, I really started to think about how to put this information out into the world, and started to dream up the idea for this healthy coffee shop concept. So especially as I would make more and more recipes at home and was getting really good feedback from people of like, this is incredible. Like it's not just, not bad tasting. It's actually really delicious, and people were craving it and felt so good after it. And so I zeroed in on this concept and like truly one foot in front of the other, like couldn't have really imagined building a big brand. It was like, how can I open one store and what do I need to put in place in order to do that? So I did hundreds of focus groups, started to come up with a business plan, all the little things that I think is good for anybody who wants to start a business where it feels impossible. Like, how am I starting a business? I think it's because often we think from the point we're at that moment to building like a huge business versus like what's just the next step I need to do in order to get me closer to that. So yeah, like I met with a real estate agent, sat outside where I wanted to be in Summerhill and counted how many people walked by and how many more came on weekends, and called every Starbucks up the Young line and saw how many people they got and what percentage of food those people ordered a day, and just started to put facts together and see if I had a solid business plan. And when I thought that I was onto something, we signed a lease and built what is now our Summerhill location. So 8.5, almost 9 years ago, I guess it's that little like basement unit.
Yeah.
We got a basement because I couldn't afford anything else, and I didn't know if the concept would work. And just by, I think, a mixture of kind of luck and hitting the market at the right time and having a really great product, we have been busy since day one.
And now you have 4 locations?
Six.
Yeah. Oh
we
my
have
God.
6 across the city. We just opened our most recent one in Yorkville in April, which has felt like kind of a huge level up for the brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wild 8.5 years because I've had 3 kids in that time. We obviously navigated COVID, which was kind of a huge curveball. We've opened up our own nut milk facility and 6 locations. So very full. I always say joyful, like none of it has felt sort of burdensome or heavy. I feel like it's such a privilege to do this. And it's been so gratifying, especially over the last couple of years, to feel like the brand has hit a resonance with people. Like we've tapped into something, I think, sort of primal, where people want to feel really good.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't necessarily just kind of feel like a treat or a luxury. It's like I need to feel my best self in order to navigate crazy modern day life. So
yeah. And it's not like you go, there's some places you go to where you're like, yeah, I'm going to like indulge in this, but I know I'm not going to feel that great. But with your products that you have, it's like you want to go because you're indulging in something that actually makes you feel so good when you leave. Like, for example, I just had your PSL, the pumpkin spice latte. And when I told Farah, she's like, I don't know, they're just so sweet. And I was like, no, this one's good. Like, I feel refreshed, and it feels like I'm putting in all of these ingredients that are actually making me feel good.
That's like the best feedback that I can imagine hearing. Yeah. That's exactly what we're trying to set out to do is, it's interesting, the idea of it being a luxury, right? And recognizing that, of course, it's a higher price point because it's a premium product. And that was one of my non-negotiables from the beginning, that I've never wanted to start a business just for the sake of starting a business. Like, this has always been, how can I put something really good out into the world?
Yeah.
So the highest quality, most nutrient dense, all organic ingredients, just like truly no cut corners. And I always wish people could come back to our kitchens to see, most restaurants, the kitchens are like huge vats of canola oil and sugar and really heavily refined processed ingredients. And ours is like a big thing of goji berries and chia seeds and freshly squeezed lemon juice. And people are having avocados. We're making Caesar dressing from scratch using organic olive oil. Like, it is just such beautiful, nourishing food. And I'm so happy to hear that you feel the difference when you eat it, because I think that you do. Like, you eat real food, you're like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel when I eat, versus what we're so used to with refined food on the go. It's like you feel bad. You feel weighed down and heavy and tired and bloated and all those things.
So how you would want to make it at home. Exactly. So that's the nice thing.
Exactly.
And, there are things out there that are like, quote unquote, healthy or like superfood, but they are cutting the corners.
Yeah, because it's way easier to.
Yeah. And
cheaper too.
And cheaper too.
Like, so much cheaper too. I always say, our nut milk, we make our own nut milk from scratch using only 5 organic whole food ingredients. And the difference of cost per liter of that nut milk versus like, Silk or an almond, it's like 5-6 times the price. Right. And so it is certainly a commitment, but I think we've been able to build a brand off of quality. And so because we've been kind of laser focused on that, and we make sure that we're communicating that with our guests, I hope and I think that nobody feels like we're pulling a fast one on them or just trying to like make a buck and that's why it's expensive. It's like we have to charge these prices if we want to maintain this level of quality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, first, we want to say congratulations on all your incredible success. One of the things, Kate, you talk about is this connection between what you eat and how you feel. And at least for me, I feel like that's something that I really only became aware of later in life. I don't think I quite used to understand exactly what the impact was that food was having on my body. It took me a long time to come around to that and to learn that. And we'd love to understand, your process around, was it when you enrolled in holistic nutrition school and when you started to understand that more deeply? Is that where you learned that? Did you always feel like food had such an impact on the body? I'm so curious to understand how you came to learn that, and what the feedback is that you're now getting from people and your family and friends that have been introduced now to your foods and your cafes.
I think intuitively growing up, I don't think I made it wasn't as sort of obvious a connection. And I also think it was a different time, right? Like this world of holistic nutrition wasn't anywhere close to as alive as it is now. But I grew up with, a mom who was a stay-at-home mom and who made just unbelievably delicious, nourishing food every night. We all sat around the table every night at dinner, and there'd be a candle on and classical music and intention, before the meal of focusing and appreciating our food. And there was a real, intentionality around the way we lived, especially around food. And so it wasn't like, as it is now, eat golden berries because this is what it's going to do for you. But it was an appreciation for whole, real, nutrient-dense, home-cooked food. So, my mom is Slovak, and she would make all these beautiful Eastern European meals, so healthy in a different way, right? It wasn't kind of the superfoods that we're talking about at Nutbar, but like coleslaw and cabbage soup and all of these kind of homemade ingredients. And so I think we just felt good growing up because we were eating home cooked food. And so, I don't think I ever kind of thought about it, but I did feel good. And so when I went through university and kind of all those years of like late nights and binging and like all the stuff, and I didn't feel good, I was like, oh, I made the connection that a lot of it had to do with the lifestyle versus being like, why don't I feel good? Like that was sort of an obvious leap. But I do think when I went to school and had the actual tools and information in front of me, it was just like this light bulb moment of being like, of course, this is how human beings have been fueling and nourishing themselves for thousands of years. And this is nature's medicine. Like these beautiful, nourishing superfoods are on the planet to make us feel better. And so that's when I really started to lean into this way of eating in a much more meaningful and conscious way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even what you said about like the whole intentionality around your dinners with the candle and the classical music, like I also had that growing up with always a candle. I'd be like, light the candles, girls, and I'll go, Mom, and still to this day. But it like takes your nervous system down a level, and like you're coming to the table like feeling a little bit more calm, and your digestion is obviously going to be a little bit happier while you're sitting there and eating and relaxing. And I almost feel that's kind of like the concept of your cafes as well. You want to sit and enjoy the beauty of the place that you're in because they're just gorgeously decorated, and like as much as it is grab and go, like you've made such a comfortable spot for people to just go and enjoy and be a part of a community. And I guess that's what brings me to my next question is you really have built this community of people who know Nutbar and love Nutbar. And how have you intentionally done that aside from creating food that people want to just feel good eating?
First of all, isn't it funny all the things that our parents did growing up? My mom or dad, and now
I have 2 young girls, and it's like exciting. They want to blow the candle out. It's like
it matters. These little subtle moments of just, to me, it's like pay attention.
Yeah.
Instead of just like coming from your crazy day and sitting at the table and eating fast, like it is all the stuff you're talking about. Like it's nervous system regulation. It's not just kind of a nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Like when you sit down at a table and a candle is lit and you're looking at your food, like your digestion starts to rev up to say, oh, I'm anticipating food. Like all of it just makes so much sense.
And you be mindful.
Exactly. But modern day life, it's not always easy to put these into practice. But yeah, thank you for saying that about the space. That's very purposeful on our
They're so
part.
pretty. And every location is differently designed, right?
They are. I want to make each location feel kind of right for the neighborhood it's in. So the one closest to you at Midtown, I wanted it to feel like a real neighborhood cafe, like the type of place that you'd want to come with a friend and sit and have a coffee and just felt like your elevated, beautiful neighborhood coffee shop. But our tagline, we always say, is feel good here. And for me, a huge component of that, of course, is the food that you're eating. But when I think about feeling good, there's kind of a whole circle, a whole pie around that. And as I said, food is one piece, but I think it's so much more than that. It's like the mind, body, soul. Like, how do you feel when you walk into the space? What music is playing? How is the customer service? You know, things like the wallpaper and the lights and the vibe, like it all to me matters a lot. And so even the cups, like I think holding a cup with the superfood art on it makes you feel different than just, you know, maybe a plain white cup. And so that's very purposeful, is just how can we make every single touch point of the customer journey, make them feel good? Because I think that's what true health is. Like it really is in consideration of the whole piece. And community is also a big piece of that pie. So the community part of Nutbar, I think it's interesting looking back, because we are really lucky to have this super engaged group of people who are, it feels like, really cheering us on, and to consider like, how did that happen? And if I think about the through line, or what makes people feel like they're so aligned with our brand, I really think it's because they trust us. So I think that's what makes people feel like connected to something, is we are who we say we are, and we have been since the beginning. So, you know, as I said, I started this 8.5 years ago as a holistic nutritionist who said, I want to put the world's most nutrient dense, beautiful, organic food out into the world. And that hasn't changed as we've grown or as I've thought about scale. And so I think people way back then connected to the brand, liked the product, felt really good eating it, and have kind of stayed and rallied around us, because now they're like, okay, it's something I can trust that feels good to support. And I also think there is something that like motivates you, I hope, to cheer on a brand when it does make you feel good.
Yeah. I think what you're touching on is really like that integrity of brand, right? And I think sometimes when you see brands scale and grow quickly, some of that gets lost in the growth. But I think what you guys have done really well is stayed true to that mission and grown with that at the forefront of every decision that you make. You talked, Kate, about how every aspect of not just the design of your spaces and your cafes, but also the food, you think so much about the aspect of human experience, right? How you want people to feel, what you want them to experience when they walk into one of your cafes. And I'm curious around, when you think back to your time working at a hospital, and, you know, Megan and I think a lot about patient experiences and those different touch points when you walk into a healthcare clinic, hospital, facility. You know, do you think back to those days of working in a hospital, and do you think about, I guess, the what ifs, right? What if those places were designed with the same level of intentionality as what you're putting into Nutbar? Just want to know what that has been like for you as you think back to, you know, your origins.
Well, I love the thought experiment of what if, because it allows you to just dream without actually grounding in any of the realities that they're facing. So it's like, you know, forget cost or all the other prohibitive measures. It just allows you to dream about what if.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so much that could be done. And I would be so curious to have a real conversation with somebody to say, what are the big barriers? Like, why does it feel so hard to create a healing environment? You know, what are the factors that you're really working against? Like, why do we need to have neon lights on all the time? Why can't we have any plants or nature? And, you know, it's all like, well, bacteria. I understand that there's a whole, you know, I'm sure people would like it to be a little bit more evolved, but very cognizant of the fact that there are many reasons why it can. I just like, if you think about what heals human beings, of like sunlight and nature and deep breaths and things that calm the immune system, you know, like dim lights and gentle voices and beautiful music and these things that we know have a measured effect on your nervous system and the body's innate ability to heal, it does feel like you want to scream from the rooftops and you say, what are we doing? Like, how is,
how did we
forget, like, and even forget, just like, if you actually just zoom out and think however many layers back, how did we actually get here? And food. Like, I just think, some of these sickest of the sick people, or even people coming out of surgery, as I said before we started recording, my dad just had a big fall and he needed surgery, and we were at a hospital in the summer, and I just like, all of it, every single touch point of the patient experience, I was like, this is seemingly working against his healing, besides the acute care that is provided, which is best in class. We're so lucky to live near these trauma hospitals, and he needed surgery and was in right away and had surgery that, like, it's unbelievable when you think about modern medicine from an acute standpoint. I just think all the touch points around it could be reconsidered in such a meaningful way, like healing food, and then all the other things that I said, just things that are actually like creating a healing environment for it.
Hopefully one day we get to a point where hospitals have such nourishing food. Like, it would be, and I mean, I said it before we recorded as well, when you've had a baby, you are given like the hospital food. It's awful. And for example, I am gluten-free, and at the time I wasn't eating nuts, and my breakfast the day after I gave birth was 2 rice cakes with a little packet of peanut butter. And I'm just like, my mom's like, and they're trying to get you to breastfeed, and that food is not going to be nourishing. Obviously, I had my whole travel pack of snacks and food, but it's just, it would be so great to be able to have this.
So, and you can feel, when we talk about feeling, like that visceral, like I always say, like cells are vibrating. When you have nourishment, when your body needs it. Like, I remember, same after I had my babies, my mom would come into the hospital and she brought like a big homemade chicken noodle soup and would bring me my green Nutbar smoothie, and I remember having a sip and feeling my body being like
rejoicing.
So that just feels I just think there's so much power in these modalities to heal us, and it's too bad that it feels like it needs to be so separate. Is there any way that we could combine the great things about our traditional healthcare system with some of these more holistic modalities that we know are really
and I think too, that like hospital food is just one aspect of that experience, right? That could be improved. There are so many other, and I think cost-effective ways also of designing better people and patient experiences. I'm curious, Kate, around when you get, new customers into Nutbar, or you get people who perhaps are coming into a new location in a neighborhood that didn't have one before. Do you find that, I guess, that there's an openness? Do you find that people are, really receptive to the education, to hearing about what makes Nutbar Nutbar? And do you still get people who are skeptical, or perhaps, I don't want to say skeptical even, but maybe just so rooted in the way they've always done things? Curious about that, because I know that your Midtown location is really close to where I grew up, and so much of, I think, even my own family history, like rooted in, well, this is kind of how we always thought about food, and this is how we always thought about things, and not being open to different ways of doing things or questioning things.
I think the really exciting thing has been to observe the evolution of our customers since we opened, or our would-be or could-be customers. So I always say, when we first opened up, a common question was, what is matcha? And now it's, where do you source your matcha? Which I feel like just gives an interesting insight about how much more tuned in people are to this way of eating and educating themselves. And so I think there are just way more people now who know about these ingredients and superfoods. And it was amazing to open Midtown, because we opened Yorkville after, but Yorkville feels like, much more our obvious demographic in terms of we have all the workout studios near us. It skews a little bit younger demographic. Midtown, I was getting all kinds of people walking in, and a lot of the customer was like, my dad. And once I'd see somebody walk in, I was like, this could go one of two ways. Like people could be like, what do you mean nut milk?
Yeah.
But I was so just pleasantly surprised to observe how many of people you would not expect to be a Nut Bar customer. And I just say, you know, our typical customer is a woman aged 25 to 44. But, you know, let's say my dad, for example, like 70-year-old man walking in and just like directly to cash being like, can I get a latte with your house-made nut milk and reishi? And I was like, what? This is amazing. And I would have conversations with a lot of these people after saying like, I'm so glad you're here. Do you know about medicinal mushrooms? They'd be like, yeah, I do. Do you know about collagen? Yeah, it's the most abundant structural protein in your body. What just feels like the so cool. The knowledge around this is growing. And I think a lot happened in COVID where people realized we can't take our health for granted. If we don't have our, you know, immune system, what do we have? So I think a lot of people kind of tuned in a lot more closely to what we're putting in our body. But yeah, Midtown has been really exciting to see that our demographic is growing. A lot more people are open to this way of eating. A lot of comments about like, my daughter, you know, brought me your smoothie or got me into it. Now I'm into it. Like, it just feels like we're pulling people into it who are much more open and receptive than they were before. And again, I attribute that to two things. One, I think what makes Nut Bar special is it's like a marriage of taste. Like, it actually is delicious. So even if somebody like my dad, for example, normally wouldn't be like, let's go get a matcha with collagen and reishi. If I'm bringing him back a vanilla smoothie with espresso, he's like, this is the best smoothie I've ever had. This tastes like coffee ice cream. So like, I'm getting people in with that. And then also with the nourishment and nutrient density, it's people are feeling so good after it and want to start fueling themselves a little bit more consciously. So I think we're pulling people from like both those streams, which then meet in one product.
Yeah. And it seems like a space that people can explore into. You know, it's like you go and maybe you've never had medicinal mushrooms, but now you can try them here. And now all of a sudden, you look at your display of products and you do have medicinal mushrooms that you can take home and try. And now you've kind of like opened the doors for people to be more creative and how they are introducing certain ingredients into their meals at home.
Yeah, and I always say there's some like gateway entry level order. Like, we have just great coffee.
Yeah.
So if you want to just get a coffee and then like our Nut Bar, which just tastes like a healthy brownie, like that feels pretty easy and not scary. So we had everything from that all the way to like a balance and restore matcha, which has magnesium and reishi and collagen and all the things, you know? So I do think we say we're like a healthy coffee shop concept, and I think we have something for everyone.
How has the brand grown, or I guess, how have your expectations been? Like, have they been exceeded? Have they been met when you think about when you first enrolled and you thought, how can I make this brand? How can I make this accessible to people and introduce these superfoods? Is Nut Bar living up to the dream that you had? Has it blown that dream out of the water? Like, what do you think about it?
I'm getting like full chills as you say that. So nice. And, you know, I think it's important sometimes to sit in that question because you, as we know, for everybody on any journey they're on, you just kind of like head down and one foot in front of the other. But I think it's important to be like, here's where we started and here's where we are now and here's where we're trying to go. Like, just be reflective on it. But like, some of the early interviews, I remember saying things like, I want to be the new Starbucks and take over, you know, and I would say those things, but I didn't really have a clear like how or like, am I just saying that or is that even possible? Like, It just felt like, first of all, I think to be a founder and do this, you have to have just an unwavering confidence. So, you know, I would say those things and I can't quite like distill, like, did I actually believe that could happen? I'm not sure, but it definitely fueled the ambition. But something has happened in the last like year where I do have this feeling of like, whoa, like something's happening here. And we had like the craziest week in June where Mel Robbins came into Nut Bar Yorkville.
Yes,
and it was like an out of body experience. Like, she was there. She had just gone to Othership, which is my brother's business, which I told you about. She's in her robe. She comes in. She's like, this place is amazing. Like, She's like, I'm going to get behind the counter with you, Kate. Let's take pictures. Like, just going on and on, holding her cup. I was like, what? This is the craziest day.
Like, wait, you're not in my ear?
And you know what? Yeah. That voice in your head being like, stay calm. A couple of days later, you know Melissa Wood?
Yes.
So she was in town for a wedding. I brought her some Nutbar to her hotel room. She was like filming this thing for me. And she's like, Nutbar is the greatest thing ever. I love Nutbar. I am Nutbar. And I was like, whoa, okay, what? This is crazy. As she's telling me this, my manager's chat starts blowing up on the corner. So I'm like with Melissa already being like, this is such a fun day. Like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Look at the manager's chat. And it's just like ding, 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 ding. And they're like, LeBron James is at Nutbar Yorkville.
Stop it.
Yes. And LeBron was there eating his acai bowl.
Oh my God.
And he was with his agent, Rich Paul, who's, by the way, engaged to Adele, which feels like a fun side note.
That is cool.
And both of them were in there talking to all of our customers, being like, Nutbar is amazing. Like, I love this. Rich Paul talked to her manager, was like, I want to talk to who owns a business, let her know LeBron's loved it. Like, the whole thing was just wild. And, you know, this idea of celebrity, it's nice to talk about. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but something about it felt like a very tangible representation of an energy that was going on at Rand in terms of like, it feels like kind of the best way to describe it is like the vibration of Nutbar felt like it elevated to another level and was kind of like attracting in all these really big moments. So since then, it feels like we're in a bit of like a vortex of like crazy things are happening.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, you get a very high influential person that you want because then they're going to tell their people and like that's what you want.
It is. And it's funny to say it, right? Because as I said, that one person, they live in LA, they live their own life. It's not what it's about. It's about having conversations with like the two of you who actually live near a location and who come every day and who are the ones like, it's funny how your impact can actually have a way bigger influence than LeBron.
Versus,
but as I said, it's just kind of a nice data point that like we must be doing something right.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And are you interwoven with a lot of the other wellness communities in Toronto? Like obviously othership.
Yeah.
But like do you guys do collaborations or what does it look like?
It's such a like great supportive community. It really is. It feels like we all know each other. A lot of us have personal relationships to, you know, answer texts or reach out. And a nice anecdote is I'm thinking about a New York location.
That's so exciting.
And just had a conversation with Josh, who's a co-founder of Impact, because Impact went down like a couple months ago. And he's just so lovely. And he's like, yeah, happy to chat. Like, so him and I are going to talk this week. And I know he's just so generous with his information. And it just like, it opens you up, right? It makes me want to share so much more with the next person who asks me, because I really do believe that like all flourishing is mutual, you know? When we can all kind of share and more, it just means more people are eating like this. And if it's for a common goal, it's nice to be able to support one another. So it's like one of my favorite parts of the job.
Yeah, that's how we feel with what we're doing at Unum. Like we just want everybody to work together for this greater cause in elevating healthcare and making the patient like the best person they can be, the expert that they are in their own lived experiences. And that's why we're having conversations with other industries like yourself, just to see like how can we pull knowledge from other industries? How can we collaborate and work together? And you know, the women's health space is like that. It's a very collective, uplifting environment. But yeah, it would be so cool to be able to get to the wellness space that you're in, to kind of like just get everybody talking together, working together to make healthcare amazing and make people feel so good and amazing.
Kate, as you think about, you know, you kind of touched on it where I think we're in this era of collaboration over competition. It feels like we're not looking at how can I be better than the next cafe or restaurant. It's really just there's room and there's opportunity for everybody to be and give the best experiences and the best products. And the more we work together, the better and stronger the impact can be. I'm so curious about, you know, the 8.5 years that Nutbar has been around for. What have you seen in other whether it's other cafes and the introduction of healthy snacks. And are you seeing this movement? Are you seeing that there's been momentum outside of Nutbar kind of building in other places?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I think that, this is not said by me, but I've seen it a lot that wellness is the new luxury. And I do think that that's true, especially for a younger demographic. Like, it seems like that this is how people want to spend their money now. So instead of going out to the bar till 2 a.m. and having a $200 bar tab, they're coming to another ship class first thing on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and then getting a Nutbar smoothie with every single add-on in it. Though, like, that does feel like the way that people are treating themselves now. Boutique fitness classes and breath work. And I attribute it to the fact that I think modern day life is just very stressful, and it's really hard to navigate with all that is coming at us. And, we said the hospital setting is like a little micro example, but it's true. Like, artificial light and phones and toxins in our skincare products and pesticides on our food and, emails from our boss at all times of day. Like, it's just really hard to feel good. And so I think that all of these things that people are turning to, fitness or Nutbar or breathwork classes or whatever it is just, I almost think about it as like a daily armor. Like, we have to kind of like shield ourselves or fill our cup or something in order to be able to handle all that's coming at us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, we want to know what your favorite product or your favorite thing to order at Nutbar is. I'm sure you love everything, but what's your favorite?
The Balanced in Restore matcha I have every single day. So it's our Housemade organic nut milk with ceremonial grade matcha. And I just, speaking about nervous system so much today, especially as a mom and business owner, I feel like matcha has just done so much to kind of ground me and calm my nervous system. So as you probably know, it's like a really clear, calm, jitter-free source of energy. I always like to use the anecdote that monks consume it before really long periods of meditation, because it's just like clear, calm, focused energy. So it has that, and then collagen, which helps balance your blood sugar in the morning and obviously get your protein in, and then reishi, which is also an adaptogen and nervous system. So I start every single day with that. I love it. I swear by it. And then I like having any kind of green smoothie. I just want to know I'm getting like a heaping handful of organic greens with like spirulina in it first thing in the morning, and then I don't really have to think about it for the rest of the day. So I used to get the green smoothie with protein, mango, and spirulina add-ons. And now we just launched a clean green protein smoothie that I love because it has 25 grams of protein and nothing, again, like a heaping cup of organic greens. So I just feel like if I have my Balance and Restore matcha and that, which I just had before I came here, I'm like checking the box. I'm kind of good for what happens in the day.
Yeah, what kind of protein is it? Like,
we use Sun Warrior organic vanilla protein. Yeah.
I'm going to have to try that. I love the OMG oats. I get the vanilla smoothie often.
With anything in it?
With espresso.
But yeah.
But I always get the oats because I feel like I just can't not get them.
Ever get seasonal jam on the oats?
No.
Yeah. I had to try.
It's good.
You need to try.
Well, we just really want to thank you for joining us for this conversation. We've learned so much just about, your experience, your dreams, how you built this from a true desire to change, not just your relationship with superfoods, but really on how to make them more accessible for people. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.